Okay everyone, welcome back to the channel for another video on Gran Turismo 7. We're back with the manufacturer's highlights from Highspeed Ring in Group 4. So this was quite a controversial round because of the wall riding. Now, PD have since made an announcement that they are going to investigate the people that were using the wall riding. I'm not too sure what they're going to do with regards to this round. My suspicion is they're going to eventually just cancel the round and reinstate it further on in the season with a fix so that you can't do that, because it does seem like now that the damage model was a lot more sensitive, which would mean this would be eradicated. So yeah, hopefully that is going to be a possibility for the future round. But yeah, I decided to do this round without using the wall riding. There was only a couple of us in this lobby that actually decided to do that. I think the only people that were avoiding the walls every lap was myself, Fento and Tichney in this lobby. Now obviously 16 drivers, there's only a few of us not doing it. It's going to make it incredibly hard. We managed to qualify P12 on the grid, as you can see here. So it was about, let's see if we can make some progress in the race, because with Slipstream, you didn't really have to use a wall ride. As long as you could stay in the Slipstream for the straights, you could benefit from the people that were kind of using that wall ride and just stay in the slip. So that was our aim here. See if we can get 300 points from this round. My target was 300 points. Obviously, I think if this wouldn't have been a wall riding round, I think we could have possibly have qualified right up there towards the top 5 or 6, because our qualifying pace was not terrible. But let's see how we can get along. We're in P12, trying to stay in the Slipstream to fence overhead. You can see a lot of sparks flying up there in the distance. We're going to stay just on the green bit faster and avoid hitting that wall. That was the way to do this corner. Keep your left hand tyre to the left hand side of that white line. Nice and safely avoid going near the wall. Now the Mercedes was very nice through this little section of track, and that's what made it quite possible to stay in the Slipstream, because you could really get the car rotated through it and get on the power nice and early. I have to say, it was actually a strong car actually for this track, considering it wasn't one of the best, but if it wasn't for that, if that wall riding didn't exist, I think we could have got some pretty decent points out of this. But I decided as soon as, you know, if we had one opportunity and we got OK points, we were just going to end it at that. We were not going to keep racing, because it was just a bit stupid, the wall riding that people were doing. So we're in P12 here now. We're going to give Fento a bump drive. You can see we're going to give him a flash there, because there's no point overtaking. With the current system of Slipstream, if we tried to overtake Fento there, all that would happen would be just fade back and drop back behind him, because he's in the Slipstream to P5. So no point going for a move. You can see the top group of cars did decide to pit early. You can see we've been promoted to P7. That's because the first group of cars have pitted early. You had to do a very silly compulsory stop in this race. I'm not a fan of these pit stops that PD add into this game, as we give Fender an accidental bump there right in the most awful place. I had to give him a little flash here to say sorry, so moved over to the left just to say, don't, you know, I'm not going to go for a move, because I was really sorry for that little tap. Luckily, no harm done, no penalty for Fento, no harm done in the race, no one lost any time. But yeah, these pit stops where you're going into the pit, you don't change tyres, you don't add fuel, I just feel they're a bit stupid personally. I don't really see the point of them. I would much rather, you know, if you're going to have the pit stop, make sure there's tyre wear in there, make sure there's different compound tyres or something. Don't just have people going in the pits just to look at people and then go back out. Also, it looks a bit daft, I think, for people watching, because they're like, well, why are you pitting? Obviously, it's compulsory, so you have to do it. But yeah, maybe for future rounds, I would prefer there to actually be a change of compound of tyre or something. But yeah, picking up that Slipstream to Fento again on the straight there, giving him another bump draft there. And you can see we've managed to break ourselves away from P8, so that's a really good situation, because the car behind us is just going to fade away without Slipstream. This combo, your race is over pretty much, because you have to be in that Slipstream. You're losing over a second a lap without being in slip, so it's vital you try and stay your hardest in the Slipstream. So again, going through this corner, keeping that left hand tyre to the left of the white line. You can see there are other people giving it a bit of a ride along the wall, but at the moment it doesn't really matter if they're doing it and I'm not, because I'm not losing much, because on the exit speed I was actually coming out the exit pretty strong, and then through here you can see that our car was actually pretty competitive. Now there was a couple of other drivers not doing the wall ride as well. I think the GTR in front of us was also avoiding the wall, however he was struggling with pace with that GTR a little bit. I think the GTR had a lot of understeer on this track. It was clearly a good car for the track, but I do think it was quite a difficult car to avoid that understeer that you get. I can only imagine through this corner it would have been a right pain. Now I made a huge mistake here trying to go for an overtake there. Look at the loss of speed that we got for that, and we faded off on the straight, and then we started to lose the Slipstream, which was a really, really daft thing to do. So I learnt my lesson not to do that again. So we skip ahead to lap 6, and you can see, luckily for us, Fento lost a slipstream of Stelios, I think, who picked up a penalty. And that meant that I was around 1 second behind, and then I got another massive bit of luck here as Fento ran along the wall, picked up the outside line and lost a lot of time. So luckily for me, I managed to get back into a slipstream. So he managed to, through that corner was very difficult. It was so easy to do that and get caught on the guardrail. And yeah, luckily I'm back in the slipstream. So got let off with that mistake. Learned not to go for an overtake on that corner again because you lost so much speed all the way down the straight. Now you can see I was giving Fento a flash there again to say there's no point going for an overtake because if we start fighting, we're going to lose time. The aim here is to work together, really, to try and maybe catch up some of them group that pitted right at the start of the race, because if they're battling and we're not, we might be able to find some pace. So again, moving over to the left, I was actually going to go to the left there, but he ended up giving Fento a little bit of a bump draft on the exit, which probably actually helped him. So again, watching from the replay cameras, starting to go into night time now. You can see the sky fading with the colour, and it absolutely looks amazing. As usual on Gran Turismo 7, the lighting is the key to this game. It looks so good with the dynamic lighting. It's such a shame that we're not using these features more in races. I would really like to see, you know, dynamic weather, dynamic time of day being used a little bit more. Maybe they're going to start using it in the experimental seasons a bit more, but at the moment they don't seem to be using it that often, which is a massive shame in my personal opinion. I'd love to see some, you know, weather kicking in these races. This was a round which we all thought was going to have weather, but unfortunately PD decided not to use it, which is, like I say, a massive shame. So we're up to lap 8 now in this race. We're doing okay, working with Fento. Fento's obviously in the slipstream at GTR. GTR's got incredible pace on the straights, so fast in the straight line. That's kind of a benefit for us because we're able to bump draft and help ourselves with that slipstream. So coming up to another group of cars, you can see that lead group in front of us. They're clearly doing a lot of wall riding. You can see the sparks flying off up ahead. They're all bashing into that wall. I'm keeping it away, so is Fento. Both of us driving it quite fair. And again, I'm not going to go for an overtake on the outside because there's no point really fighting each other at this stage. If we start fighting, we're going to bring Stelios, who's behind us there, back into this group. You can see Tijani behind that as well. I think he'd lost a slipstream in the Ford. And yeah, that Ford without a slipstream would have been pretty dead in this race. You needed to have a slipstream in the majority of cars. So picking up the slip, give Fento another little bit of a bump draft here. Now what I found was pretty clear was that my car, we had a little bit more pace than that Corvette in the race conditions, it seemed, because through the corners we seemed to be able to carry a little bit more pace, and the Corvette was pretty strong on the straight. So we can see up ahead again another penalty. It looks like that Nissan GTR got caught out where we were talking about before. Again, so easy to run wide there. So we're going to give Fento a little bit of a bump draft here, go past that Nissan. We both need to get past it. He's got a 3-second penalty. So unfortunately for that Nissan GTR, that is pretty much his race over, because a 3-second penalty here is going to absolutely waste your race. You can see Fento seemed to back out there and give us the inside line. I think he realised at this stage that it might work better if he bump drafts me and I try and take the speed through the corners. So that's what we're going to try and do. You can see we're about 2 seconds behind Firepin there in P3. They're wall riding though, so you know, they're slipstreaming and wall riding. I'm not going to do that wall ride. I refuse to do it, and I know there was a bit of controversy over it, but it's all done and dusted now. I'm just glad that we kept it away from the wall really and just kept it on the track. So yeah, some people chose not to do it and that was their choice, but we're working our way through these corners, trying to get on the power nice and early and see if we can pick up that slip. But it's going to be incredible. You can see we actually gained time through that section. We gained a couple of attempts. However, it was pretty much impossible because every time we got to the corner we've just gone through, they wall rode, so they were pulling away. But we're skipping ahead here, you know, onto lap 10, and you can see there seemed to be a bit of battling going on up there. I'm not sure if there was someone that maybe had a penalty, and as we come through here we can see there is a car that has picked up a penalty, and that is perfect for us. It looks like we might be able to pick up a bit of a slipstream here. So you can see there's been some sort of issue there. I don't know what's happened. The penalty maybe for wall riding or whatever. You know, it was possible to pick one up if you were a bit too aggressive, and we've now got that slipstream to P3, which is a perfect situation. Now you can see that the leader is going to go into the pits. Now he's technically not in the lead, and I went to go in the pits there just in case these two in front of us decided to pit, because one huge mistake you could make would be to pit and then have no slipstream. That would be a disaster. So we're staying out here. Now the Ferrari on our outside is having to give that space up on the inside. Now I went for a move, we understeered a little bit, and we're going to actually have to back out of this because he's got the slipstream. So I decided to just tuck back into the racing line. And again, we really want to work together anyway at this phase. But you can see again, look how much they gain. through, not really braking into that corner. But luckily for us, I know that we picked the slipstream back up, and then these few corners up here, the Mercedes was really strong. You can see 4.5 tenths behind them, but then as soon as we get through here, we're able to gain a bit of that time back by, you know, accelerating through the corner, taking nice lines through here, and then trying to get on the power nicely. And you can see gaining half a tenth, maybe a tenth on them through there, so back into that slipstream, and no real loss really. You know, racing it fair and not getting any loss of time by, you know, using that wall. So we're going to skip ahead to lap 13 now. Again, you can see they carried on doing the wall riding in front of us. It was quite common for, I think the majority of people were doing it in this race, in all fairness. There was a couple like Ramster, in fairness to him, was trying to avoid it, but every now and then he was clipping it, which I think in his situation in the race, I think he got lured into it a little bit. But yeah, myself and Fento were 100% staying away from it. I know Tigeny was also staying away from the wall. And at the moment, we're in a pretty good condition here in this race, considering that we haven't been using the wall ride. So let's see what happens here. We're going to be going in the pits on this lap, and this is going to be really interesting because we had the group of cars that obviously pitted really early that were quite a bit ahead of us. They were, you know, they were way ahead. We were in P12, starting from P12. So where have we actually got ourselves in this race so far? We've driven pretty well. We've driven smart. So we're into the pits, making sure we don't go over that track limit on the entry into the pits where you pick up a 3-second penalty. And on the exit here, you can see the group of cars coming through now. There's the first group. You've got, I think, Ramster in there as well. And we've dropped down to P7. So not bad considering that we started P12 and we've been racing it without using any exploits. So far, so good. You can see as we come through here, the Ferrari goes for I have a little look up the inside, but fake it, then go back to the right hand side. Now, we kind of wrong-footed him there, and I think he was going to have a little look up the inside, but we've now got the outside line. We take that racing line, and we managed to do a nice move on that Ferrari, putting ourselves up to P6. And also, we see, I think that was another car, Sakor, who's there was an incident with the wall riding, and he spun himself out, and we've been promoted to P5, a top 5 from P12. Considering what was going on in this race, this is actually going to be a pretty solid result for us in the Mercedes. So all we've got to do now is just follow behind P4 in that Vantage and get it home and see if we can pick up the points. Now, I thought maybe we might be able to get a move done on that Aston Martin, but one thing I didn't want to do was run into the wall on the end. So you can see I take it quite cautious, staying to the left-hand side here. I don't risk going out on the outside line because obviously picking up a bit of turbulence could easily do that and pick up penalties. But you can see on the straight here, we don't quite have enough space before the finishing line to get a slipstream and go for a move anyway. So P5, pretty solid finishing, considering everything that went on in that race, and we kept it pretty clean. And only 2.7 seconds behind the leader from P12. So a few more laps could have actually worked out quite nice, and we might have got a bit of a better result. But yeah, I was happy with that result in the Mercedes from where we started with racing it without using the exploits. So yeah, a good round in general there. 306 points. Very good. Hopefully you enjoyed that video. Let me know in the comments how your race went. Let me know, you know, what your thoughts on the exploit and whether they should rerun this race. I personally think it should be rerun and wiped out the previous result for this round, but we'll see what PD do. Thanks again for watching, everyone.